We continue this discussion. We turn now to Elizabeth Gershoff. She is a developmental psychologist who studies how parenting and discipline affect children's development. And we want to thank her for being with us. Elizabeth, you're on the phone. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, thanks so much for coming on the show. I do appreciate it. First of all, I read some interesting comments that you made in a news article, and you explained sort of the rationale that Adrian Peterson has set forth in quote unquote whooping his 4-year-old. He said that he got whooped when he was growing up, and you called this intergenerational transmission. Talk to me a little bit more about that concept.
Well, the best place for us to learn how to parent our own children is from our own parents. We spent a lot of time with our parents as kids, and that was our main model for parenting. And so when we have our own children, we kind of recall what our parents said to us, what they did to us, and we often repeat the same thing. And so that includes when parents use violence against children as a means of discipline. And so if you were disciplined as a child with spanking or hitting with an object, then that seems normal to you. And so people who are spanked in that way don't really question it. And so I think what society is now kind of reacting to this Peterson case is that maybe it's time to start questioning that.
Well, do you find this to be a cultural issue at all?
Yes, what we find from research studies is that African American families are more likely to spank their children more frequently than white families or Latino families or Asian American families. But what that doesn't mean is that there's any difference in the effect of spanking. So in the research that I've done with 11,000 children across the country, spanking had the same effect on increased aggression no matter what race or ethnic group children came from. So even though African American parents spank more and they believe in spanking more, the effects on their children are the same as children in other race or ethnic groups.
I'm so surprised to hear you say that. Just my understanding in terms of reading that spanking is very common in some Asian cultures as well. And do you find it to be geographically related? Because I don't think all African American communities throughout every region of the country has the same perspective about spanking. Is there that kind of nuance?
Oh, definitely. There's definitely a lot of variation within the African American community, and you'll see more spanking among African Americans and among all racial groups in the South. The southeastern part of the United States tends to spank more. They tend to use objects more. The South tends to be more punitive in general, both in the criminal justice system, but then also in how it treats children. Most of the states that still allow paddling in schools are in the South.
I know that there are philosophical differences about whether or not children should be spanked or corporal punishment as it is caused. But are there good, solid scientific studies that show a causative effect in terms of the consequences of striking a child in a form of punishment?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, we can't do an experiment with children and parents, which is the best way science has of just determining causality. We can't randomly assign children to parents and tell some parents to hit and some parents not to. But what we can do is follow children over time. And there are some statistical things we can do to try to get a better causal explanation. And when we do those things, we still find that when children are spanked, years later, they're more likely to increase their aggression over time, even taking into account how aggressive they were in the first place. Because, of course, aggressive and behavior problem children are going to elicit more spanking from their parents because they're difficult. But even taking that into account, we see that children who are spanked more increase their aggression and behavior problems more over time.
Yeah, man, that sure is a point for debate. You know, so many people, having grown up in the South and in the African-American culture, I know so many people that were spanked that weren't aggressive at all. So it's certainly something that needs to be explored even more. Elizabeth Gershoff, thank you so much for taking your time and giving us your expertise. We do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And you're watching Arise America.